how to use VIX to get the biggest moves of your life in day trading. This is part 3. Now go back and watch part 1 if you haven't watched it already. Here it is on your screen. How to use the VIX to day trade, SPY, ES, SPX, and get those 100% returns. And then watch part 2, how to use the VIX to get the biggest moves of your life in day trading. This is going to be part 3. All right, we won't recap what we just discussed. Let's get right to it. Here we have VIX on our screen, and we've got our pivot levels already identified. We know what we're using these for. We know what we've already researched. We know where we're going to get our edge. We know all of that. Now, here's the question. How do we know when the market is going to shift so that you can be ready to load up to get those 5 and 10x trades? All right, well, in part, you certainly, number one, all right, you're going to take training. All right, I got to throw that out there. None of this information is going to completely click without you taking some formalized training. You don't have to take it from me. Just get the training. All right, you got to go click the link attached to this video. You can go down the training stack and at your leisure, or you can come into the Discord. You can click the 101 bookings channel here, and you can click it and get your training there. All right, so the first thing you're going to have to do is you absolutely will have to come and take some training. If you don't take any training, you won't know how to tie this in. All right, so what we're trying to ascertain here is, okay, I got my levels here. I understand market sentiment. I understand what the VIX is. I understand the pivot levels. I understand the fear and greed. Okay, KD. But how do I know when to get into the trade? Because a lot of people, they try to catch the tops and the bottoms. I'm telling you, don't try to do that. Just wait for the move to break. But you should be ready. You should be ready to take the trade. You should have an indication of, all right, this thing is pretty much going to break. All right. So how do you know that? Well, I'm going to give you something to help you to understand how to read a shift in volatility. All right. Now, oftentimes inside of the Discord, people hear me talking about a shift in volume. Now we're going to talk about a shift in volatility. All right. So how do I gauge that? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move away from the VIX index, and I am going to go and track the VIX futures. As you can see, the volume profile is already on my screen. It did not appear on the VIX index. Why? Because the VIX index is a measurement tool. It's not a tradable product. But VIX futures, which is tied to the index, these can be traded. And these can give me insight as to volume. Why do I care about that? Because that's the big daddy of them all. Remember, go watch this video. The only 3 indicators you need to effectively day trade, you'll understand. We need volume and we need volatility. Now, with my indicator here, I can ascertain when I'm going to get a shift of volume or if I'm going to get a shift of volume. So on the VIX futures, because they're tracking the same underlying asset, here's what we're going to do. You're going to come over to the VIX futures and you're going to highlight, at this time, why don't we create a zone here? You're going to highlight your zone or area where you feel like the market is going to pivot based on action, based on the past price action here, okay? So looking at the market here, and we could even put one here too. We could. And if you've watched the first videos, then you know that I've got my levels out there. I've shown you how to do all that in video 1 and 2. And now in pivot points, what to pay attention to. Now we're going to talk about how to know when to get into the trade and when you're going to get your shift in volume. So again, we're going to track the VIX futures to understand when there's a shift in volume. Now let's just break this down a little bit here. This indicator here is called the volume profile. This is my proprietary volume profile, or should I say the wealth wells, because I've shared with everybody. Some awesome and cool moderators inside the Discord assisted in developing this thing. So you may see that this one is a little different. Because this volume profile has some metrics that we can adjust inside of it to pull tape-like data into the volume profile as an added bonus. So it's no secret I read the tape to understand for perfect entries and exits and all that cool stuff. I cover how to read the tape and do a deep dive on volume in training 4 and 4.5, all right? But I use that information as a little bonus so that I can know when to get in to get those perfect entries and exits. So with the volume profile here, this one, we can see general volume, but we can also see when a shift in volume will occur for buyers and sellers. All right, real-time data, adjusting as we go. So I'm on a 1-hour chart here. I have a pivot level at the base here. And now what I'm watching is I want to see if there's buyers down there, check, and I want to see how we're going to pivot and how aggressively that's going to happen. Now, once I see volume shift in this area, I will know that volatility is rushing back into the market, and I have a greater chance of extreme moves when I hit my pivot levels. All right. Now, the biggest opportunity for the larger moves is when the VIX and VIX futures is overextended significantly, and when it's low, yet it has a catalyst to push it in the opposite direction. To know when it's going to shift, to know when it's going to move, I've got to watch the VIX futures. I've got to understand how the volume is shifting to see if there's an absence or a presence of volume. So in harmony with my levels or my zones, my areas of interest, I'm going to watch the volume profile on the VIX futures. You can chart the VIX futures to have all your levels here, and then you can use both of them or only the VIX futures. Now, keep in mind, the VIX is the actual index that I'm watching. My levels for precise entries and pivots are on the VIX. I go over to the VIX futures for volume. That's what I'm looking for, the shift in volume. All right. And that's going to give me the edge that I need because these two are related there. All right. So that's quick 5 minutes here, how to get those absolute monster moves. The biggest moves of your day trading career are going to happen when the market has sentiment, volume, volatility, price action, and you're at your pivot levels. You're going to get those awesome moves.